Twitter snoops, Tim Cook talks, and Google wants to solve the mental health crisis. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 424 for Tuesday, September 15th, 2015. This episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service that's the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TN2 to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TN2. Welcome, I am Megan Morrone. Let's get to today's big tech news. Several Twitter users in California have filed a class action lawsuit against the company for allegedly snooping on our private messages. The lawsuit claims that Twitter systematically intercepts, reads, and alters direct messages without our knowledge or consent. If you use Gmail, you've probably gotten used to the lack of privacy in your message, like that metaphorical frog boiling in the pot. But what about that reference to altering our messages? According to The Verge, that part of the complaint concerns the fact that Twitter scans messages and replaces URLs with a custom hyperlink in order to show where traffic came from and to generate better advertising rates. A similar suit has been filed against Google for their reading of Gmail messages. A judge did not let that suit proceed, but the court didn't dismiss the lawsuit altogether, and Google has since changed its practices. The Twitter suit will essentially come down to whether or not we've been informed of Twitter's practices. I would have read their whole user agreement, but it was well over the 140-character limit, so I couldn't. Tim Cook says you'll soon be able to delete default apps that come with the iPhone. You know, the ones you never use, like Tips or the Apple Watch app if you don't have an Apple Watch. The comments were made by Cook informally to a BuzzFeed reporter as they rode downtown to surprise employees at a New York Apple store where Cook was immediately mobbed and attacked by selfie takers. When asked about the so-called bloatware, Cook said those apps that you often consign to a folder labeled with the poop emoji are there to make you happy. He went on to explain that the issue was complicated because some of these apps were connected to other phone features and removing them might break something. But Cook said that over time, they plan to figure out a way to allow you to remove them. Back in July, we told you about Chicago's Netflix tax. That's the Windy City's 9% amusement tax levied against anyone paying for the privilege to witness, view, or participate in an amusement. The legalese says, quote, this includes not only charges paid for the privilege to witness, view, or participate in amusements in person, but also charges paid for the privilege to witness, view, or participate in amusements that are delivered electronically. The tax applies not only to Netflix, but also to Spotify, Hulu, Xbox Live, and others. But now, 6 Chicago residents are suing the city over the tax. According to Ars Technica, the suit alleges that the tax violates the Federal Internet Tax Freedom Act. If the plaintiffs are successful, the taxes that have already been paid will be refunded. A spokesperson for the city told Ars Technica that they have every intention of vigorously opposing this lawsuit. Google is on a hiring streak. Yesterday, we told you that they'd poached a veteran auto industry CEO to head their autonomous car division. And today, the New York Times reports that Google has just hired Thomas Insel, director of the National Institute of Mental Health. Insel will join Google X in November as part of the Google Life Sciences team. In a statement on the NIMH website, Insel described the mission of Google Life Sciences as creating technology that can help with earlier detection, better prevention, and more effective management of serious health conditions. And now they'll begin to explore how this mission can be applied to mental illness. Coming up, we'll get the skinny on Facebook's new dislike button, as well as a roundup of other social media news from Kurt Wagner over at Recode. But first, you know you should be investing your money for the long term for you and your family's financial health. And it's confusing to know exactly how to do it. You can try to do it yourself, especially the right way, but that's complex and time-consuming. Now there's Wealthfront. Traditional advisors charge huge fees between 1% and 3% of what you've got under management, plus hidden fees for transactions and changes. Wealthfront makes it easy for anyone to access world-class long-term investment management, and you can get started investing today at a minimum of $500. You sign up for an account at wealthfront.com, and in just minutes, it goes right to work, monitoring your portfolios round the clock and taking action as soon as the opportunity arises. So whether you're investing for retirement or a different long-term goal, Wealthfront automatically rebalances your portfolio and reinvests your dividends, all commission-free. Wealthfront's software optimizes your investments for the best risk-adjusted return net of taxes and fees. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible. You can view all of your accounts in one place. You can also see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard, on your desktop, or with their mobile app. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. Wealthfront manages over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's grown over 20 times in the past 2 years. Join Wealthfront and start investing your money the right way today. Visit wealthfront.com/TN2 to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation they recommend for your portfolio. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Claim your offer at wealthfront.com/TN2. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you that Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA, and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risk, and there is a possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. The presidential election season is in full swing in the U.S., and the democratic process is sure to be deeply affected by the new ways we all use social media. Joining us to talk about this, as well as a few other social media stories of the day, is Kurt Wagner, reporter at Recode. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, Megan. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So you posted a story this morning about how Twitter and Square are teaming up to allow political donations through tweets. Explain how this is going to work.
Sure. So if you're a political candidate and you want to raise a little money from your Twitter following or from the wonderful people who use Twitter, you can now do that pretty easily by kind of registering with Square and then including a link that turns your tweet into kind of a donation card. So if I'm a user, I just need to click on a donate button within Twitter. And if I have a Square Cash account, it's really easy. I can just log in and immediately send some money to a politician of my choosing. If I don't have Square Cash, I can still donate using a debit card. But I'm sure that Square would love for people who are signing up or for handing over money to create Square Cash accounts in the process. And so I think, as I wrote this morning, I think it does two things for Square. I mean, it is in theory like a business move here, right? They're going to take a small percentage of all these donations, so they're going to make a little money. And then in Twitter's eyes, I think that this is an important way for them to try and feel really useful and relevant to all the folks who are running their campaigns. I mean, if I'm a politician and I can make a little money from my Twitter following, I'm going to be a lot more likely to engage with them, to tweet more often, to post photos than I would otherwise. So I think for Twitter, this is a way to make sure that candidates continue to use the product heading into next year's elections.
So does Square get a cut of that money, or they're just getting more people to sign up?
Yeah, Square's getting a small cut, about 1.9%, I believe. And so that's the same number, I'm told, that they charge businesses that use Square Cash. So it's not necessarily more or less than normal Square users and customers would take, but they are taking a small transaction fee of each donation.
So campaign fundraising rules are very intricate and serious. How does this not violate any of them?
Well, you do have to share some information in order to do this. You have to share your occupation, who your employer is, your address, your full name, basically stuff that enables them to vet and make sure that, I believe, one of the things they need to double check is that people who are donating are indeed U.S. citizens and they're allowed to be donating to these kinds of campaigns. And when I went through the process, that was what came across my phone when I was trying to do it. And so it's just, you're right, it is a very confusing process. And from a legal standpoint, I don't know. I assume that Twitter and Square are making sure that kind of we're filling out the information that's appropriate because they're the ones who are going to get in trouble. The candidates are going to get in trouble, not you as a donor for sharing that info. So I assume that those steps have been probably taken. But yeah, they do require some personal information from people before you can actually make your donation.
Right. So the campaign rule, the fundraising rules are in place so that we all know who's donating to who and how they're raising that money. So
exactly.
I guess Twitter has that information and we'll turn it over.
And they want to make sure that it's your personal money too, because there are limits on how much people can donate to specific candidates, and that's why. And I'm not a political person, so I'm not going to pretend to explain this much more beyond just this. But they want to make sure that they're keeping track of who's donating, so that you're not donating too much across multiple mediums, and that also, businesses aren't necessarily taking advantage of this because there's different rules for businesses to donate versus individuals. So I'm sure that there's a lot of legalese that went around on in the background, but from a user perspective, it's actually a pretty simple, slick idea. So it's, it makes sense that they would want to do this right now with all the focus on the elections and the politicians.
Our viewer in our chat room has an interesting question. Is there a limit on how much you can personally donate on a tweet?
That's a great question. And then I'm embarrassed to say I don't know that, but I could easily find it for you, I'm sure, on Google. But I guarantee, obviously they're not going to take more than you're legally allowed to do. I want to say that's like only a couple $1,000s, but I'm digging myself into a big hole because I don't actually know. So it's a great question that unfortunately I'm ill-equipped to answer. I apologize.
Well, it's not really a tech question, so we forgive you.
That's okay.
So, I mean, this isn't really a tech question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The candidate with the most money is often the one who wins the election. It's sad but true. I mean, do you think that the way we use social media now will be able to change that?
I don't necessarily think that I guess I don't see this as being a significant enough revenue stream that people are that it will like completely alter the election. My thinking is that it's simply a way to encourage candidates to be more active on Twitter, right? But if you think about people who are donating to a specific candidate, it's something that they really care about, and they're probably going to donate. At least the people who are donating a lot of money, they're going to donate whether they see this on Twitter or not, right? I mean, I'd be shocked if someone just sees a tweet come across and goes, oh, I want to donate $2,000 to, Hillary Clinton, because that's just such a big commitment. My guess is this is going to be more for the $5, $10, $20 pledges that it's just going to make it easier for people to pledge that, but then also probably tell their friends about it. Hey, I just pledged $20 to Donald Trump or whatever it may be. So I don't necessarily know if this is going to change the whole financial game of politics. What I do think, though, is that it just simply reinforces the idea that if you're a politician, it sounds obvious now, but there's no excuse not to be on these different social networks. Twitter, Facebook, of course, as being kind of 1A and 1B. But I think Snapchat's up there too, right? I think you see a lot of politicians starting to get on Snapchat now. And it's going to be important for them to reach a certain demographic. So I think that this kind of donation feature is interesting. And I wouldn't be surprised also if it kind of bleeds into some of the other social networks I was just talking about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the money in the past was used for television advertising because that's the way they reached the most people. But I think the amount of data mining that goes on, the things that politicians and the government, the information that we give out, there's so much of it that I think now politicians can really target very specific people pretty easily that, are on the fence. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that they wouldn't even bother advertising to because they know they're not going to change their mind. But maybe it's cheaper to change those few minds they want to change at this point.
I think that's a good point. And I was actually just talking with someone about kind of what Snapchat's doing, because I'm really fascinated. They've seemed to made a push into kind of having some more political content on the site. And I know that they've recently hired someone from Google to kind of actually work with the campaigns and bring in ad dollars to Snapchat. And one of the things that they've never done is had really great targeting. Snapchat, like Evan Spiegel's philosophy has always been, we're just going to kind of show the same ad to everyone, and people are going to show whether or not they're interested by clicking on it. You had to click to actually watch the ad. That was the first initiative of their monetizing strategy. So around politics, if I'm Hillary Clinton, I probably don't want to spend money to advertise in California because, that doesn't seem like it's a blue state generally anyway. So maybe that's a waste of money. But what you can do at Snapchat is you can geofence your advertising. So I could advertise by state. As far as I know, that's the only real targeting you can do on Snapchat. It'll be interesting to see if they let people target beyond that, right? Because also Snapchat has a young user base. I don't want to be spending my money targeting 15-year-olds on Snapchat if I'm a politician. I want to make sure only people who are of voting age can see my ads. So we'll see if they change their philosophy a little bit as time goes on. But there's a lot of money to be made for sure.
Right, and especially aiming at those young people. Those are often the ones whose minds can be changed at this point in their lives.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
posted a few stories last week about Twitter's seemingly endless search for a CEO. It's probably only been like 3 months, right? It seems endless.
Does.
Chris Sacca, he's the big Twitter and Google investor, has been taking to Twitter to stir the pot and try to get the board to move on this. What's going on here?
Well, so you're right. It has been 3 months, which when you think about it, hey, we need to find someone to lead this company. It's a publicly traded company. It's highly scrutinized. Like, yeah, I would kind of expect them to take longer than 3 months to find someone. At the same time, I think the impatience comes from the fact that, when Dick Costolo was there, kind of the last 6 months of his time running the show, there was a lot of talk about, hey, is he on his way out? Should someone else be coming in? And it doesn't seem as though there was any urgency from the board to do any preparation for the CEO search before he left. So I think that's where the frustration is, right? There's an interim CEO, but ideally this would be a much smoother transition, and it really hasn't been. And so I think that's where people like Chris Sacca are getting frustrated, and he has a lot of reason to be frustrated. He owns a lot of Twitter stock, and a lot of his wealth and his net worth are tied to this company. And so what he's been doing, and you pointed this out, is that he's been publicly kind of critiquing the board and putting pressure on them via Twitter, which is kind of ironic, to get things done quickly. And so he did that again at the end of last week. And he hasn't been shy about saying he thinks Jack Dorsey, who's currently serving as the interim CEO, should be the permanent guy. And he said that again. And really what he's trying to do is he's just trying to say, this is unacceptable. As an investor, as someone who follows the company, I want something to happen quicker. And this is his way of getting his voice heard. Not a lot of investors have the kind of following or the clout that he does. So he has kind of a unique role to play in this whole thing.
So do you think they're going to hire Jack Dorsey?
Do I personally do? Yes. I think that seems to be the logical choice at this point. I mean, obviously the big sticking point is that he's also running Square, and he's got a full-time job as a CEO of a company that's about to IPO. And I don't know how much sleep he needs, but the thought of him running two companies at the same time seems a little silly. So I think that he's the logical choice for Twitter. Everyone who I talk to, both inside and outside the company, people who care a lot about the future of Twitter, they think that Jack is the most logical choice. We're told that there is an external candidate who is pretty seriously being considered, but my hunch is that it'll be Jack. What I don't know is whether or not he'll have to step away from Square, if Square will get bought, or what's going to happen over there. It would just be, I think it would be a bad move for them to hire him to do two different jobs at the same time. So maybe that's what the holdup is. I'm not really sure, but my gut tells me that it will be Jack. But I've been surprised before, so who knows?
Well, the ability to pay through Square on tweets is interesting from a political standpoint, but also maybe even more interesting in like how does Square and Twitter, how do they work together? It'll be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I asked them that this morning, right? I was like, how long has this been in the works? Like, is this the kind of product that once Jack kind of started, running both companies over the last 3 months, was this something that came about then? And of course, the political answer I got was that this has been in the works since the last election, right? When they saw, people wanted to participate in the donation aspect of a campaign back in 2012. So, obviously they waited until it was more relevant. But, you never really know. You never really know how long something's been in the works. But it certainly is convenient that he's running both companies that are partnering together on this project. I can't imagine that there was a lot of convincing that had to be done on either side when the boss is making both those decisions.
So you had another article today about Snapchat. They made some announcements. They're now going to let you rewatch snaps for 99 cents. So that's just the Snapchat message. You can only watch it once, right? But then, or you can only watch one of them once a day. Is that how it works?
It's confusing. So, right, Snapchat started as the disappearing message platform. I send you a photo, you can watch it, and then boom, it's gone forever. Then they rolled out this thing called Replay, and actually a lot of people aren't even familiar that Replay exists. But what they did was they said you can rewatch one message a day. So I see your photo for 5 seconds, it disappears, but I say, I wasn't really paying attention and I want to see that again. I can rewatch just that one photo, and I can do that once a day for the entire platform. So what they must have realized was that a lot of people were rewatching photos or videos because Now they're simply saying, hey, if you want to rewatch a bunch of them, you can pay for the ability to rewatch either a photo or video that someone sends you. So even though it disappears, it can come back for another go around. And I don't know if people are going to pay that or not. I certainly don't plan on it. I don't get the kind of stuff I get over Snapchat is so lighthearted and ridiculous that oftentimes once is enough. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I want to pay to put myself through that a second time. But apparently people must be interested, because I can't imagine they'd roll this out if they weren't seeing people already doing it.
Well, I think having a 12-year-old who uses Snapchat, I think that it'll be the same thing as when there were in-app purchases and parents didn't have any idea, and all of a sudden they saw this crazy big bill and like, what did you buy? And they're like, I bought gold in Clash of Clans. And, and was it real gold? No.
Right.
So I think the same thing might happen.
Yeah, I think they'd want to avoid that, because app makers kind of got, I mean, I remember you reading those horror stories, right, where it's like parent goes to pay his or her credit card bill and sees like $20,000 and in charges. I mean, that almost looks just as bad for the app as it does for the parenting there. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't really know if this is like a big moneymaker. As I pointed out, I think it's more of a signal that Snapchat's just kind of willing and eager to try almost anything to create revenue, right? They have this ridiculously high valuation. They've taken a ton of money from investors, and now they have to prove that they can be a real viable long-term business. And so I think it's good for them to kind of take a chance on something that maybe not a lot of us had thought about. And if this is successful, then who's to say that they can't start charging for other things as well, right? So like you said, in-app purchases, I think this is right along those lines.
Okay, finally, Mark Zuckerberg announced today at a town hall meeting he's officially working on the dislike button. Now, is that your support of the dislike button, or is that your just showing off the dislike button?
Prepare to be confused a lot on Facebook moving forward when you post something and everyone gives it a thumbs down, and you're trying to figure out, does that mean they don't like me? Does that mean they don't like my post? Like, what is it? What is this whole thing? But yes, he mentioned at a town hall today that Facebook is in the process of building a dislike button. Although, my understanding is that it's going to be more than just a big fat thumbs down. That might be one option. But what I think Facebook is going to ultimately try to do is create buttons around all kinds of different emotions, right? So right now, when you post something, you can already say, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling excited about this post. But there's not a lot of way to say that as a friend or someone who's reading it. So I don't know if you use Slack or if people out there use Slack, but right now what they do is you can pick from a whole range of different emojis, right, when you want to comment on someone. So you could give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or you could give them a spinning siren, or you could give them a weird Christmas tree, whatever it is you want to do. And I wonder if Facebook's going that direction, where they're going to just simply offer like a whole bunch of different options to reply to posts, and a dislike is going to be one of those. But we know they're doing dislike, and people have been asking for that forever. So it's kind of a big news today out of Facebook if you're into that kind of stuff.
Well, I would hope that it'll be more than just emojis, because I think what he also said at the town hall meeting was that people need a different way to express emotion. And he was talking specifically, he brought up the pictures of the Syrian refugees that appeared on Facebook. They were horrible pictures. A child drowned up on the beach. And,
Right.
what do people have to do besides, it's so
Exactly.
I don't think an emoji would be appropriate in that sense either. And I don't know what would be appropriate. I mean,
Sure. Well, when I say emojis, it's kind of like, I kind of consider the thumbs up an emoji, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a signal of like. It's the image. So maybe don't think of it as the same way that you might think of like a silly smiley face or something that you're texting, but instead of it saying like, maybe it would say something like, this is sad. Maybe that's probably a horrible example, but you get the idea. I think, like you said, he wants to, and Facebook wants to, give people a way to do all kinds of different emotions. And if that means a thumbs up, a thumbs down, a middle finger, whatever, who knows, they're going to offer those kinds of weird things. And hopefully some of them, though, are for like empathy and stories that kind of suck, because you do come across a lot of stuff on Facebook that's not fun. And you feel kind of weird liking it at the same time you want to show that you read it or show a certain feeling associated with it. So that's what they're trying to fix right now.
Yeah, I mean, it will fix some things, I think. But at the heart of it, I think it's just an issue with people living their lives on Facebook. You can't, and it's difficult. But I don't think they'll be able to fix that. I mean, it was interesting last week, 9/11. I didn't have a lot of conversations with people about the anniversary of 9/11 in my regular day. But then when I went to Facebook, it was all of these people posting these things, and I thought that was really, it was disconcerting because it was conversations that people were not comfortable having in their daily life, but then were very comfortable having on Facebook.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways, Facebook might argue that's good, right? Like they're providing a platform for people who don't feel comfortable talking about this, and yet they feel comfortable posting. It's like an outlet for that kind of stuff. But I kind of agree with you, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that I see people post, and it doesn't really feel as genuine as I would like because, you don't see those conversations happening in real life all the time. And yes, they can be really tough or they can be challenging, but it's your Facebook life can oftentimes be just a portrayal of what you want people to think of you, right? I mean, that's why you post the best pictures from the party or the best photos from your vacation. So, that's the same thing. You're going to post the things that make you look good or make you look thoughtful or whatever it may be, not necessarily what's actually happening in real life. And I don't know if Facebook can ever solve that because that's a human issue, but I think what they're trying to do is just simply give people more options to express themselves, and that seems like a thoughtful or interesting idea. So hopefully they can get it right.
Yeah, well, I would argue that's part of what Snapchat's doing because it disappears so quickly. I think it's like it's not there forever. It's not a historical document of my life that people are going to look at. It's like here's a picture, a funny face, and then it's gone.
And then it's gone, except for 99 cents, in which case it comes back and we can watch that over and over.
True. Yeah. Well, Kurt, thank you so much. Kurt Wagner is a reporter at Recode. He's at Kurt Wagner with the number 8 on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's me. Thanks, Megan.
Take care.
Bye.
And finally tonight, a San Francisco court rules that a mother can use Prince's Let's Go Crazy to show how cute her kids are. Take that, recording industry. According to SF Gate, in 2007, Universal Music Corp asked YouTube to take down a 29-second home video of 2 children dancing to the song Let's Go Crazy by Prince. There it is. You can barely hear the song, but the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco decided to use this case as an example and demanded that the copyright holder consider whether the video is considered fair use. Fair use includes journalism, as we're showing now, criticism, also showing educational uses for teaching or research, maybe showing that, maybe not, and brief private postings that don't damage the commercial market for the work. Does 13-month-old Holden damage Prince's future prospects? Let me know what you think. Write to us at tn2@twit.tv or megan@twit.tv, or you can post on our Facebook page. That is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. You can also subscribe to the show at twit.tv/tn2. You can watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.